thinking and feeling state during this time of great change. Explore being consciously aware, authentically free, and courageously sovereign with us. Sundays at 11 a.m. on AM 950, and check out our early release episodes that drop Thursdays on your favorite podcast apps.
Hi, this is Laura. Listen to Food Freedom Radio every Saturday at 8 a.m. or anytime via podcast. Our individual health is connected to the health of each other and connected to the health of the earth. We know the problems with the dominant food system: climate change, deadening soils, nitrates in the water, factory farming, injustice, concentration of wealth. How do we both as individuals and as a community step up and support a living food system which honors the earth? Tune to Food Freedom Radio every Saturday at 8 a.m. and remember to support your independent farmers.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. Even though Auto Technical is a small nonprofit, we have helped more families with transportation than any organization in Minnesota. Since '94, we have reconditioned donated vehicles so they have a higher tax benefit. Call Richard at 612-919-5526, 612-919-5526, or autotech.org.
Step into a world of financial empowerment with the Do Different Better show. I'll be your host, Elaine Rasmussen. Join me Sundays at noon on AM 950 as we do a deep dive into wealth education with topics like investing, real estate, and entrepreneurship. No nonsense, tell it like it is, keeping it 100 for everyday people like you. Tune in to get practical insights to rewrite your financial future. So each Sunday at noon, let's do different better. You can hear Do Different Better anytime on your favorite app. Learn more about me at socialimpactnow.com.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear tonight with a low of 63, then Tuesday sunshine with a high of 83. The annual sale is going on through July at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces in Minneapolis. Out of the ordinary products and services since 1977. Check out their store at Franklin and Riverside in Minneapolis or visit woodlandstoves.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. And I'm your host, Robert Pilot. We discuss local, national, Native news and events. And as you know, Chujunk, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Dega. This portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, I saw you this weekend up in Red Lake, and we went to see where Bob Blake from Red Lake lived and where he's from, and that was awesome. Got to hang with the lieutenant governor up there. She was in incognito there with her family and wanted to just enjoy the powwow. And, of course, you know, we outed her and said, thank you for all the great work you do. Oh,
Yes, it's, Red Lake, thank you so much. A big Pinagigi and Pinagigi to everyone who made this year's Independence Day powwow celebration a really good one. And, just really big thank you for hosting us and everything. It was great to see Lieutenant Governor up there. A lot of people were up enjoying family time on vacation as well. And comedian Red Laker Trish Cook was there.
Yeah.
Always really fun to run into her. And yeah, that's Bob Blake's homeland. So it was amazing. We saw a couple, lots of wildlife, a few bears, and it was a good time.
Yeah, it was a good time, and it was beautiful. And it's great to see Red Lake flourishing up there. And I know they have I think they have 17,000 citizens, and half of them live up on the res there. And first of all, what a beautiful lake Red Lake is.
Yeah, that was my first time going up to Red Lake Nation's reservation. And we've talked a lot about, just with other guests on the show about land back and the whole land back movement up there with the upper lake. And wow, I guess I just didn't realize how big the lake was. One, just, not being up there. And the beautiful sunsets over the lake are just amazing. And really, I didn't see a single boat on Lower Lake at all.
Wow, really good point. Hey, I also want to mention this, Haley, too. When we celebrate July 4th, especially our relatives in Ho Chunk, it's really Mitchell Red Cloud Jr. Day, and he was a Ho Chunk, and he was a corporal in Company E, 19th Infantry Regiment in Korea. And on November 5th, 1950, Red Cloud was on the ridge guarding his company command post when he was surprised by Chinese Communist forces. He was surrounded. He sounded the alarm and stayed in his position, firing his automatic rifle point blank to check the assault. This gave his company time to consolidate its defenses. After being severely wounded by the enemy fire, he refused assistance and continued firing upon the enemy until he was fatally wounded. His heroic action prevented the enemy from overrunning his company's position and gained time for evacuation of the wounded. And we celebrate, there's more to this, but that you get the gist of it. And refusing, Red Cloud, we always have, and July 4th is Corporal Red Cloud's day, and not the 4th of July for us in Ho Chunk here in not only Wisconsin, but all over Turtle Island.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I know us as natives, I guess depending on, which nation you come from or what's, the anniversary around these dates. But I found out that Red Lake celebrates their independence on July 6th, I believe is the exact date. But they celebrate their independence from the Dawes Allotment Act back in, I think, 1876.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they were one of the only nations in the entire country to not sign the Dawes Allotment Act, including the Navajo Nation, allowing them to keep their land all of this time.
Well, we know, too, in July 4th, 1776, we were called the merciless Indian savages in this Declaration of Independence.
Right.
So it's a double-edged sword holiday for us. It's good to get together with family, have the days off, and things like that. But it's a double-edged sword for us Native Americans.
Yeah, that's true. And really how I see it is, just celebrating us as Native people still being here and celebrating our sovereignty.
Well, I was, celebrating how Thomas saved Arnold Joseph today on July 4th from, smoke signals. So that's a big holiday for a lot of us too that love that movie. Oh,
That's a really good point. I was hoping you were going to bring that up. If not, I was going to. But yeah, Smoke Signals, one of those really iconic movies from 1998, the year I was born. It's a really great year.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Smoke Signals, I would definitely check that out. I'm sure you could find it on streaming services. But yeah, that was the day he saved, from the fireworks, the explosion.
It's Joseph. Yeah, definitely. And at the beginning of the movie, when he saved him, they said, "Oh my God, you saved Arnold," and he was like, "I'm sorry." And then you find out why he was sorry at the.
Then you find out once you watch the movie.
That movie still holds up to this day. Smoke Signals. It really, really does. And I've watched it recently, and it still holds up to this day, which is pretty amazing. And it's based on Alexei Sherman's books and writings. And it was all Native cast, and it's fun too. They have there was a Native star on that TV show called Northern Exposure who had a cameo, and she was driving a res car, and then only had reverse, and they were driving through the reservation in reverse the whole time, which was not that far off.
No.
I know, like, for instance, like we talk about our nation, and our relatives in Winnebago, they just got dirt road. I mean, they had dirt roads for the longest time, and now they finally have been paved the last, I don't know, 8-10 years.
Right, that's so true. And when we were in Red Lake, they did a parade on Saturday, and there were a few res cars in there. Some of the best I had ever seen. I mean,
I
like,
hope you took pictures.
that is something I wasn't able to do, I don't think, but they had all the doors were missing, of course, and a couple props in there, the babies in the car seats. It was pretty amusing.
That's funny.
Mhm.
That's funny. You didn't see Bob Blake, did you?
I didn't. I did stop by the Native Sun tent and got some swag. They had a medallion that they were giving away in a drawing, and I saw someone was able to win that. It was a beautiful Red Lake beaded medallion. But Bob Blake, I heard, had to tend to some family matters, so he will be back hopefully at next year's, but definitely I know we'll see him soon.
Yeah. Well, his mom, and I do believe one of his brothers live up on the res there in Red Lake. And if people in Wisconsin are listening to us all over Turtle Island, Red Lake is like 4-hour drive. Matter of fact, from my house, 4 hours and 6 minutes to Red Lake. And what's interesting too is, it's just about 30 miles past the beginning of the Mississippi up there too, and Isanti.
Yeah, Itasca State Park.
Itasca, thank you. What did I say?
Yeah.
Isanti?
Isani or something.
Yes, Isanti Claus. Yeah, yeah. And so that's if you ever make it up there, that's a nice place to go. I know it's the beginning of the Mississippi, and you can hopefully still drink the water, even though we got line 3 up there running right through the Mississippi. And yeah, exactly.
Let's keep talking about those lines 3, line 5. We got to keep talking about those.
Well, I agree 100%. I think we have Dr. Stately on today, and we also have Wendy checking in, and you are listening. I'll say it really slow. You are listening to AM 950 Native Roots Radio, and we'll be back after this short break.
Stay with us. Oh, what?
I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Bonjour, hello. My name is Wabin. I am an enrolled member of the White Earth Nation, descendant of the Navajo Nation, and co-chair of the Indigenous Employee Resource Group with the Minnesota Department of Transportation. MnDOT is hiring for a variety of positions from road maintenance to accounting and more. We offer great benefits. For more information or to set up a one-on-one resume and application assistance, visit mn.gov/careers, or you can text or call 612-257-2388. 612-257-2388.
Minnesotans age 65 plus might qualify for Health Partners Minnesota Senior Health Options. The plan includes personal support, coverage for medical, prescription drugs, and dental, plus over 30 extra benefits. Eligibility information is available at healthpartners.com/oneplan. Health Partners is a health plan that contracts with both Medicare and the Minnesota Medical Assistance Medicaid program to provide benefits of both programs to enrollees. Enrollment in Health Partners depends on contract renewal.
welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Native American Community Clinic on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition.
Hey, we're here with our friend Dr. Stately, and he is the CEO of a Native American Community Clinic here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, and I just want to wish him a happy 4th, and it's really good to see you, Dr. Stately. Welcome, as always, to Native Roots Radio.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Happy 4th. It's the 8th, my dear. You're like all my indigenous relatives. You're like 4 days late.
Yeah. Indian time on the 4th of July.
Right? Completely. It's okay. I'll take it. Thank you. How are you? How was your weekend? Did you enjoy your weekend?
Yeah, it was good. Both Haley and I were up at Red Lake. I was up there for a day or so, and she stayed up there for a few days. And first time up there, what a beautiful lake, and powwow and politicians and marijuana up there, and in Red Lake. We like it. Go Red Lake.
Yeah. Did you have some of that marijuana?
No, I'm still sober. I don't I don't tell people how to live their life, but I have to stay sober. It's like, for me, that was the hardest thing for me to quit using. I quit drinking, and then I went to treatment, and then I went to AA, and after AA meetings, I'd smoke marijuana going, this was just a great meeting. I just really enjoyed this. These people are really cool. We were rapping in a circle, and I was enjoying it afterwards, until a friend of mine said, like, a couple months later, he said, if you're smoking weed, you don't get one of those medallions. And I went, what? So then I gave it a shot, and 40 years later, now I've been totally clean. But that was a hard one for me to give up. So it's like smoking. I can't smoke a cigar, or I'll start smoking cigarettes again. It's just that kind of personality.
That makes sense. I haven't had that experience. I actually have smoked cigars since I quit smoking, but I don't smoke them anymore either, though. So
you look cool with this.
I think it was a what do you call it thing for me. It was like, oh, it's kind of cool. My first time smoking a cigar was walking down the what is it? That famous street in New Orleans.
Bourbon Street?
Yeah, Bourbon Street. Walking down Bourbon Street, smoking a cigar, a Cuban, with one of my friends and a group of our friends, and I was like, "Ooh, this is good. It tastes good." I smoked them a couple more times after that, and then I was like, "This is kind of ridiculous. I don't know why I'm doing this. This is stupid."
Whenever I smoked a cigar, I always talked like the Penguin from Batman. I don't know why. Hey,
did you walk like him too? Did you do your little waddle, your little feet? And like,
yeah, give me a light. Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
Probably a good reason not to smoke cigars too.
I'm sure there were a lot of people that were so happy you stopped.
Yeah, I bet you they were. And that was before I met Wendy.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you didn't do that. Like, actually, that's a really big health issue in our community. Like smoking and smoking cessation is such a huge. That's one of our big projects we're working on at NAC. Actually, is try to reduce. Trying to. I don't know how many of your listeners know this, but Native people in the upper Midwest have some of the highest lung cancer rates in the nation. We die more frequently of lung cancer than any other group, specifically within like the upper Midwest and the plains. Some of that has to do with our smoking rates. I think in Minnesota it has to do with maybe there's a lot of radon in our state. We have a lot of radon, but we don't actually know how much of that plays a role. The majority of the preponderance of lung cancer conditions, though, for any population is really determined by whether or not they've been actively smoking or they've smoked for a long period of time. And there's an easy way to take care of it too. There's a low dose cancer screening process that you use a MRI machine and does a scan once a year, look for spots on your lungs. I did it last year. Actually, I did it as a part of a we have a partnership with American Indian Cancer Foundation, and also this really wonderful cancer doctor and lung cancer doctor in Abby Bagnat at the University of Minnesota. We've been doing this lung cancer screening project now for a couple of years, and we tried to get more funding to do it, expand it. And she thought it would be a good idea for me to for me, because I have such sway in the community, for me to also after I disclosed her in the personal conversation, I was like, well, I smoked for almost 25 years. I started when I was 11 and stopped when I was 34, 35. And then I said, and then I haven't smoked since then, anything. And she goes, oh, you should be in the interview. You should do a lung cancer screening event, and we'll take video of you and interview you after you meet with the oncologist and go over your results. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting. Anyway.
Well, I quit smoking probably 18 or 17 years ago, and I get a lung exam once a year just to see where I'm at.
Yeah, it's important.
I do believe that's what's going to kill me eventually is I'm going to have lung cancer because I smoked for so many years. And I know I've quit for almost 18, I think, 18 or 17 years. And, it was a life changer. But I'll tell you, when I first quit, both Wendy and I quit at the same time, and we loved pasta, and we could taste our food. And next thing you know, I'm 205 and I'm 245, and I didn't even realize that.
Wow. Yeah. That'll happen to you, I think. But I thought, oh no, you told me that she made a comment about the condition of your ashtray when she got into your car the first time.
Yeah. If I take a sharp turn, the cigarettes will be flying out on the floor. Yep.
Yeah.
I really impressed her when I picked her up at the airport. Red shirt. I'm lucky to be here.
Anyway, yeah, but I would say that it's one of those things that I would really encourage anyone who has smoked for, well, they call it 30-pack years. And I was like, oh, good Lord. But I like when people come up with these things, these researchers if you smoke 30-pack years or more, I'm like, what does that mean? Well, the equivalent of a pack, not a day. Is it a day? I can't remember. Anyway, this whole demarcation point. You're significantly greater risk if you smoke 30-pack years of cigarettes or others, maybe even cigars too, but commercial tobacco essentially. And that you're more likely to develop lung cancer, and so they encourage people to go get screened. It's non-invasive, the screening. It's not at all like a colonoscopy. It's just you just go lay down on this machine, and it takes a radiological MRI of your chest, and you look at your lungs and you look for spots. And it is one of the most treatable cancers if you also catch it early. You don't catch it in a later stage, which is why we're dying so frequently, is that people don't get screened early enough. They don't catch it until they're in stage 3 or 4, and there's little coming back from it at that point. So
yeah, well, I got to ask Haley a quick question. How do you for Native American Community Clinic next open house, I see a colonoscopy thing to walk through and maybe a big lung somewhere, an inflatable lung.
A set of lungs, yeah.
Or a set of lungs.
We'll need some inflatable lungs with some facts on the inside that we can walk into and see. I'm very curious to see if the same rates for smoking commercial tobacco is going to be comparable to kind of like vaping.
Oh.
And nicotine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I think we're just going to start learning. I think one of the things that vaping hasn't been. Think how long it took us to get to this point about being able to understand the impact of smoking cigarettes on lung health and lung cancer and those kinds of things. It'll take us a little bit longer than the last couple of years that we've been doing it. But I think that there's some early evidence that it is not good for your lungs for sure, right? So we're still inhaling, toxins and resins into your lungs. And I think the bigger issue, I think that is related to vaping, which is a real concern, is like how many young people get incentivized and kind of seduced into smoking or starting their smoking trajectory through like flavored flavored cartridges that taste yummy. They got cool graphics on them. They got cool names, and my sons would tell me that all the kids in high school were doing it, right? So like we just don't know enough, but we also know that it's likely not to be healthy. And what happens when you run out of the money to be able to pay for cartridges and to buy those things? They're expensive. They don't. They don't last forever. And so you're likely to do things like start smoking cigarettes or other things. Bumming one off your dad or your mom, or if you were like you stole them out of their purse when they were sleeping.
Exactly. They didn't count them because they were busy smoking them. I remember that too. I always ask my dad, I go, will you quit smoking these Moore cigarettes? I mean, they're very long and they look like cigars, and Telly Savalas smoked these, but it's not.
Love those. Cool. Love the Moores. The Moores were so cool. They were just like.
Yes. Well, if I only have a few weeks to live, I'll go back smoking those. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, leave me alone. Go pick me.
I don't think. Do they make them still? I don't know if they make them still, but okay.
Well, we'll Google that during this commercial break. Hey, we're here with Dr. Stately and a Native American Community Clinic CEO, and we'll be right back after this short break. Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl. J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
You may have seen a certain truck in videos being shared on social media. How about the truth? I have yet to see any video of that truck outperforming the Toyota Sienna from Rudy Luther Toyota. I've driven Sienna since 2006. They handle the highways great, handle back roads, and handle 3 inches of snow a lot easier than the so-called super truck. Plus, my Sienna hybrid is super fuel efficient, tows great, has enough room for tons of gear, and doesn't look like it was drawn by a 6-year-old. Sienna wins. Test drive the top of its class Sienna today at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
July is the annual store-wide sale at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Come see our diverse selection of wood, gas, or electric fireplace products for indoor and outdoor living. And right now, Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces can assure you the best price of the season on every product in the store. Let Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces help you choose and experience the joy of sitting by a fire.
Summer is a great time to install your fireplace. You can find your perfect fireplace and have it installed and ready before the cold weather hits again. If you already have a wood fireplace, consider a fireplace insert. Come and see the entire selection at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces on East Franklin and Riverside in Minneapolis. They will create a fireplace that works for you. Efficient, clean burning, and environmentally smart.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces since 1977, out of the ordinary products and services to make fire work for you.
Hi, I'm Frank Brown, owner of the only minority-owned union print shop in Minnesota. Do you work with political campaigns?
Yes, we have years of experience helping campaigns.
Do you print buttons for political campaigns?
Yes, we print everything.
Do you print rally signs?
Yes, we print everything.
Do you print t-shirts?
Yes, we print everything. Choose the only minority-owned union print shop in Minnesota for all your political campaign needs. Learn more at mpuptown.com. Minuteman Press Uptown. We print everything.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear tonight with a low of 63. Then Tuesday, sunshine with a high of 83. Maverick's Real Roast Beef is an East Metro treasure that goes well beyond roast beef. Maverick's is located on Lexington Avenue, a mile south of Highway 36 in Roseville. Visit mavericksbeef.com for more.
AM 950 KTN up St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Native Concrete and Masonry. Check out their work at nativeconcretemasonry.com and give Chuck a call at 612-597-0421.
Hey, we're here with Dr. Stately, and we're kind of talking a little bit about smoking and vaping. I know there was an article that just came out, and you were interviewed today on NPR, and maybe we can take some of NPR's thunder and talk a little bit about about what you were talking about, the opioid deadly toll of Minnesotans of color, and how that just came out on a report here, and from 2019 to 2023, and up on top of the list is Native Americans that are dying from opioid.
Oh yeah, significantly more. Yeah. So this project was actually led by a researcher that I have a relationship with. Her name is Dr. Kumi Smith. She's an epidemiologist and a researcher that works at the University of Minnesota. And she also is a professor. She teaches about substance use disorders at the University of Minnesota. She and I have been talking about these issues for quite a while. Her and I have, and a couple of other colleagues, I think, that are connected to some of this work. Dr. Ziwe is who was also mentioned in the article, as a colleague and a friend who is working hard to address this tremendous disparities that are happening across Minnesota, but also specifically within South Minneapolis and the county of Hennepin. When you compare the rates of opiate overdose deaths for Black and Indigenous people, Native American people specifically, to Latinos and whites and other groups, our rates are substantially higher. We got to some of this data by, the state and the county kind of do report some data, but it's not, we did some deep diving into the data, or Kumi did. I didn't really help her with that, other than to sort of listen to her and encourage her to do it. They looked at death certificate data as well, death certificate information. If you read the article is maybe you can link it on your website so people can watch it later or read it later for themselves. But it talks a little bit about all the challenges of being able to sort of kind of get at the granular level data that this group was able to get at, that sort of kind of does call out the significantly greater disparities for the Native community in Minnesota than any other population. And while
22% or 22 times higher than white people, Native Americans death rate.
Yeah.
22%.
22 times higher, not 22%, 22 times. That would be, so 1% or 100% is one time. So
right.
That's significantly. So the things that are disturbing about that also that I think is really interesting is that also emerged from our analysis, or their analysis, was that When they looked at across all of the opioid overdose death rate data that was available, and they looked at things like education attainment, what they found was the overwhelming majority of overdose deaths can be accounted by people who have gotten a high school diploma or less. In fact, the highest rate of people to die from opiate overdose in those last 5 years has been people who don't have a high school diploma. The rate of death per 100,000 people is 322.7 deaths per 100,000 people for people without a diploma versus 220. That's 100 people more, right? I think one of the things that's challenging about that is that, like, when we think about some of the people describe big epidemic things like the opioid epidemic, the houseless epidemic, these kinds of things, and some of these big things that are impacting Native people at a higher rate in the state of Minnesota, they talk about social determinants of health, things like poverty, lack of education, these kinds of things. They describe these things, and they term them social determinants of health, meaning those socially determined things will have significant impact on your health outcomes, one direction or another, right? I happen to think that things like not being able to earn a high school diploma in the state of Minnesota for Native Indigenous people is not a socially determined health outcome, but a politically determined one, right? Some of it has not necessarily to do with whether or not there's financial resources or other resources available to support good educational outcomes in certain communities that are under resourced or those kinds of things. And whether there's money, it's whether or not there's political will to support those things. And Minnesota has a long track record of not serving Indigenous people and having deplorable graduation rates for decades,
Yeah.
right? And so it's not surprising then that we would see these huge death rates from our community that's much higher when we look at, like, well, what does education have to do with that? Education has everything to do with that. And if you can't get a job, you can't get stability in your life and those kinds of things, well, maybe you'll become depressed. Maybe you'll develop a mental health disorder if you didn't already have one. Maybe you'll have emotional, psychological, or even actual physical pain that can't be managed or managed well. We did a much better job in the nation of addressing the opiate crisis for well-resourced, well-insured white people across the land than we did for Black and Indigenous people who don't have health insurance, primarily, don't have the kind of resources that people who have good jobs and stability in their lives have. So what we're seeing is the outcome of how these outcomes aren't just related necessarily just to the utilization of heroin or fentanyl or other substances, but the other things that are around it that actually amplify it and make it greater for our people.
Absolutely. And we talk about resources, we talk about these things. I just got to jump back a little bit too. I was on the parent committee, St. Paul Public Schools Native Parent Committee. And as an educator, we were applauding ourselves at 54, 56% of our Native kids were graduating on time. And let me tell you, I was not applauding it. There was other people on the board that wasn't applauding it. And if this was in our white community, this would be in the paper every day. There would be heads would roll, and yet we were just not. We were looked at this as being a success because maybe 20 years, 30 years earlier it was less, but I didn't see that way as being an educated Indian.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that was interesting about emerged in the story was that the highest rate of Minnesotans who were dying from opiate overdoses in the last 4 years, in 2019 through 2023, where Minnesotans that were between the ages of 25 and 34. That's like the prime of your life.
Yeah.
Those are like and so it just is heartbreaking for me to read this. And then the next sort of like age group that's most impacted is 35 to 44-year-olds folks. These are the people who are leaving behind loved ones, children, grandchildren. These are people who are in the prime of their lives, who should be having the most generative and productive years of their life and doing amazing things, and instead they're suffering from this, this completely preventable problem. So it's heartbreaking. When I read things like this, I'm so proud of the work we do at NAC, but we have this very robust harm reduction program and street outreach program, trying to get people Narcan and get them connected to treatment, and lower barrier access and all these things. We integrate culture and ceremonial practices and all that work, and so we're doing really great stuff. But when I read this data, it's just heartbreaking. It makes me feel like,
right.
Even if I grew a workforce twice what I have now, like, would I make a dent in that? And so, I'm having a moment today with this.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
disheartening. These are real people. These are people's children. These are people's parents, people's cousins and aunties and uncles and loved ones. These are not just numbers. These are real people.
Yeah, a really good point. Yeah, it is disheartening. But thank goodness that there's a real report out there that we can lean on and ask questions to our leaders, whether they're tribal leaders or city leaders or state leaders or county leaders. There needs to be this needs to be addressed to having 2 to 3% of the population in the cities and have these kind of numbers is
We
like
represent across the state. We represent somewhere between 1% and 2% of the population, right? Of the entire population. I guarantee you that we do not get the scale of the crisis and the need as it impacts our community is nowhere near the scale of support we get from the county, the city, the county, or the state in terms of resources to address the problem. One way of thinking about that is like the settlement dollars that are coming into the states. The governor said we're going to use those dollars to address the communities that are the most impacted. Well, it's clear, the data is really clear who's the most impacted. Not just the number of people who die, but the scale of loss in the specific community. And in the article, I'm quoted as saying, like, smaller communities are more impacted by these kinds of big, huge numbers. Like, it's the equivalent of dropping an atomic bomb in a community that has very small to lose 5 or 10 people in a year. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot of people to lose. These are knowledge keepers, language holders, culture bearers, the parents and the grandparents and the loved ones of these children that we have to raise into the next future generations. It's impactful.
Well, Dr. Staley, thank you for talking to us about this really, really tough subject, and that's really applaud people like you and people that are trying to make a difference in the community, and they are making a difference. Again, big peeny gigi, thanks for coming on, Dr. Staley, and speaking your truth.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
All right. Hey, we'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake.
Bonjour, hello. My name is Wabin. I am an enrolled member of the White Earth Nation, descendant of the Navajo Nation, and co-chair of the Indigenous Employee Resource Group with the Minnesota Department of Transportation. MnDOT is hiring for a variety of positions from road maintenance to accounting and more. We offer great benefits. For more information or to set up a one-on-one resume and application assistance, visit mn.gov/careers, or you can text or call 612-257-2388. 612-257-2388.
Imagine over 7,000 voices from around the globe coming together in harmony in Minneapolis. This summer, Gala Choruses Festival 2024 comes to Minnesota. It's the world's largest LGBTQ plus singing event. From July 10th through 14th, Minneapolis will be transformed into a vibrant city of song. Join 122 choruses from places as far as China, Estonia, Finland, Ukraine, and Taiwan for 5 unforgettable days of wall-to-wall concerts, workshops, and social events at world-class venues like Orchestra Hall, the Minneapolis Convention Center, and Central Lutheran Church. One standout event not to miss is the free Choral Carnival on Friday, July 12th. Experience excitement as downtown Minneapolis comes alive with 45 to 60-minute rotating performances. Feel the energy in person by purchasing tickets at galacourses.org or stream every performance live and on demand at galacourses.org. Celebrate love, diversity, and the power of music at Gala Courses Festival 2024, where every voice matters. July 10th through 14th in downtown Minneapolis.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis Air. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis Air dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis Air on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations. And here's Wendy with the new Sacred Animals.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Haley. Hey, everybody. My name is Hanaji Hihani. That means cares for them. I was given that name by my Dager Curtis. Curtis goes by Mashke Hanajinga, which means walks on white clouds. I'm a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States, and I work on animal issues at the local and state level, and it's always my pleasure to do that. A couple of things here today. We're going to be all over the place, but that's okay. You know, I talk to a lot of people and they say, well, you know, I had a dog and I had him for, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, and the dog, died. And the pain was so great that I just can't do it again. Like, I just can't go through that again. I think Robert and I realize that, these little animals that we get, whether a cat or a dog, they're not going to live as long as us, and we will have to go through that pain. But after, the pain goes away, I always feel like, let's adopt another animal in honor, right? In honor of the one that just passed. But here's a quote. This is by Dean Koontz. For those of you who don't know who Dean Koontz is, he's a writer, and he writes like science fiction movies, books. I used to read his books a lot. I haven't read any of them in a long time, but years ago, he was one of the authors that I would read, kind of sci-fi, out of this world kind of stuff. But excuse me, this is what he says, and this is a quote. Dogs' lives are short, too short, but you know that going in. You know the pain is coming. You're going to lose a dog, and there's going to be great anguish. So you live fully in the moment with her. Never fail to share her joy or delight in her innocence, because you can't support the illusion that a dog can be your lifelong companion. There's such beauty in the hard honesty of that, in accepting and giving love while always aware that it comes with an unbearable price. Maybe loving dogs is a way we do penance for all the other illusions we allow ourselves and the mistakes we make because of those illusions. And that's a quote from Dean Koontz, The Darkest Evening of the Year. Yeah, it is. I mean, I just look at my little Wanda. She's our last animal left. Robert and I have always had multiple pets, but Wanda's our last one, and she's 14. She heard me say her name. She looked at me, but she's 14, and I know her time is limited. Her time is limited. So I keep that in mind and spend as much time with her as possible. And I know that the day is going to come where the anguish will come, and you know that going in, but you still love them so much, and they bring you so much joy. I think that outweighs the pain that we go through, the love and the companionship that we share with these animals. I've been looking on Facebook, and I look at these little memes, and I've been collecting them, and I just love some of them. I think they're so cute. So I'll just describe it to you. So here's a meme, and it's a caveman coming out of his cave and a modern day hiker sitting face to face to each other. And the caveman says to the modern day hiker, "Behold the secret to happiness." And he's handing the modern day hiker a puppy. So, yep, behold the secret to happiness. We were just talking about that. I'm in Long Beach right now in New York, and they do not allow dogs on the boardwalk or on the beach. So here's a little cartoon with a dog with an X through it. So the dog is not allowed on the beach. The dog is looking in the ocean, and there's garbage in the ocean. There's plastic bottles in the ocean. There's tires in the ocean. There's netting from fishermen in the ocean. And the dog says, and they still haven't realized that it's them, not me, right? I know. And it's really a shame. I would love to bring Wanda up on the boardwalk and on the beach, but there's so many people who just don't pick up and clean up after their dog. So that's kind of ruins it for everybody. Here's another cute little meme that's very cute. It's a cartoon of a dog and a cat sitting on the couch, and they're reading books. So the dog is reading a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and the cat is reading a book titled The Art of War. I think cats get a bad rap all the time, but we've had cats over the years who were really sweet and cuddly and, nice. Here's a meme. This is a cute one. I don't know, like if you ever go out on a blind date, you have like your friend call you in the middle of the date, and then you would let your friend know whether the date's going good or not. And if not, you could say, "Oh, I have an emergency. I have to leave." You know how that happens. But this is a cartoon of a man and a woman. They're out on their first date, and the title is Bad Date Rescue Dog. And the woman, the dog walks in with a leash into the restaurant, and the woman said, "What is it, girl? You need a long walk right now? Well, Bob, looks like I have to go." So that's the Bad Date Rescue Dog. I thought that was kind of cute. Here's one with a dolphin. And did you know that dolphin moms sing to their babies in the womb during pregnancy, and after giving birth, they give their babies names for life. They also teach them a signature whistle that the baby dolphin can use to call its mother, and she'll know who's calling. So, scientists have been studying these dolphins for years, and they've really learned so much about them, and they're so intelligent. Really, really very intelligent. Here's a little meme with a little chick resting in somebody's hand, and it says, quote, "The soul is the same in all living creatures, although the body of each is different." And that's from Hippocrates. Hippocrates said that. Here's a little meme of looks like a little corgi dog, a little cartoon. And the cartoon says, "I've been with you since I was a little puppy. So if I'm a brat, honestly, that's kind of on you." We had Mickey and Pancho, our little chihuahuas, as puppies. They were rascally dogs, and we got them in September. I think that was the problem, Robert. We got them in September, and then the winter came, and it was so cold and snowy and icy out, and they were chihuahuas, so they had like no fur or hair on them, so they were freezing. So they never really went out a lot and socialized. So by the time we had them, in the spring, and we were out and about, they didn't know what was going on. So that was our fault. We'll never do that again. So if you have puppies, get them out, no matter what time of year it is, and have them socialize with people and other animals. I think that's really so important. Here's a cute little meme, and it's a hotel, and one dog is standing behind the counter checking other dogs in to stay at the hotel. And the dog is standing behind the counter and says to the client, "Do you want a bed or do you prefer to sleep on the furniture?" That's kind of cute. And here's a cat laying in bed with the covers over, up to its neck. And the cat says, "I think someone broke into the house." And then the cat says, "Well, that's the dog's problem." And the cat goes back to sleep. Here's one here, the last one. "Because of dogs' joyfulness, our own is increased. It is no small gift." That's by Mary Oliver. And with that, back to you, Robert. Back to you, Haley.
You are listening to Native Roots Radio. If you have been listening to the show, you are part of our resistance. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office, vote, and free Leonard Peltier now.
Crooner's Supper Club in